Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're here for a weekly meta breakdown for the standard best of 3 format. We had Dominaria United come out on Thursday. I'm recording this on Monday, September 5th. At this point, we don't have enough untapped GG data. This is typically what we do is we look at untapped, we look at win rate matrices, stuff like that, seeing what's the best performing ladder decks. Usually best of 3 takes about a week. Similarly for Explorer and Historic, we don't have enough aggregated data for those formats right now for this week, so it'll be a standard best of 3, and then we'll re-look at standard best of 1 for this week. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at, we had a number of tournaments over the weekend. We had Crokeys' tournament that had 195 participants. We also had Pizza Box, another content creator, had about 70 folks that attended. And then we got a couple of lists off MTG Arena Zone of players in the best of 3 format. So we'll use this as kind of a starting point as the meta kind of settles in. And then as soon as I can get best of 3 data from Untapped, we will include that as well. So starting off with Crokeys tournament, the winning deck at the finals was Jund and Jun. I'll link this tournament, so if you want to look at any of the lists, you can kind of take a look in that regard. But the top placing deck, let's go visual view. I don't like visual view. It's all over the place. Is screenshot better? Nah, the cards are all over the place. Okay. So this is a Jund mid-range deck, so we have cards that we typically see in like the Rakdos style builds, Graveyard Trespasser, Bloodtithe Harvester. We got some Titan of Industries at the top end, and what it's trying to use is the Cruelty of Gix. So there's a bunch of ways to kind of put cards into your graveyard through like blood tokens, Reflection of the Kiki, or Reflection of the Mirror Breaker, and then you can go to Chapter 3 of Cruelty of Gix and reanimate your Tenacious Underdog. If we're looking at some of the other new cards in the deck, we have Namada Primeval Warden. So it's basically like Kalidas, but instead of creating a zombie, you create a Sapperling, and then you get some utility out of it that way. And then just a couple one-ofs, Outland Liberator, Florian, Junji. We have a inclusion of Squee, Dubious Monarch as kind of a recursive threat along with the Tenacious Underdog. And then we have Soul of Windgrace that also lets you play get lands out of your graveyard, so some utility there. We have the Elder Dragon War as another card that allows you to draw and discard, kind of a sweeper in a way with dealing 2 damage. And then top end you get the 4/4. We have some removal in the form of Cut Down. They're kind of the new Fatal Push. Deals you can basically get to kill someone with combined power and toughness of 5. You also see Tear Under as a card being played a bit. So 2 mana can deal with an artifact or enchantment, or if it's kicked for 4, you exile target non-land permanent instead. So just a selection of removal. This color combination does get access to 2 of the Pain lands. This particular version is only playing the Rakdos, but it does have access to Gruul if needed. And then your sideboard, you're just going to have stuff like anti-control stuff. You have Duress, you have Obnixis, some copies of the Meathook Massacre, another copy of Sheoldred in the side for the grindier matchups, or the more aggressive. Unleash the Inferno is a card that deals with like all the hearses, or any of the vehicles, any of the enchantments, Reflection, Wedding Announcement, anything like that that kind of comes into play. So some utility cards in that respect. Another deck that did well in the tournament so this one went 8-3-1. This is a mono white deck, so a little bit of an aggressive deck. So we see Sarah Paragon included, lets you replay non-land permanents, or cast permanents basically, or play lands from your graveyard 3 CMC or less, and then they get some utility. If they leave, you gain some life. You see Resolute Reinforcements, kind of the new timely reinforcements. 2 mana, flash, get 2 1/1s. We see Anointed Peacekeeper is kind of the new Elite Spellbinder style effect, attacks your opponent. Then you just got, it's kind of like a mix of like an aggressive deck and then a little bit more of a mid-range. We have Guardian of New Benalia that lets you pitch cards. This worked really nice with Sarah Paragon in a mono white deck I was playing. You pitch the card and then you can cast it again, so you get some utility in that regard. Some Wandering Emperors, Wedding Announcements, and the Restoration. Your sideboard, you have your tax effects, Synthalia and Anointed Peacekeepers. I don't actually know what Lantern Flare does. Deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. X is the number of creatures you control, so you're not casting this for its cleave cost. So Lantern Flare deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. X is the number of creatures you control. Okay, so it's basically 2 mana, and then you deal damage equal to your creatures. Sorry, I don't know why that one was so hard to read. Heavy removal decks, you have Extraction Specialist, you have some Graveyard Hate and the Protector, Brutal Cathar is another piece of removal, and then Curse of Silence for tax effects. Then we have Jeskai. This was by Elliot Dragon, another content creator, 8/3/1. So this is more of a control deck. So it's looking to use Timeless Lotus, the new 5-mana Wooburg artifact with Teferi Slows the Sunset to generate a whole bunch of mana. Then you can either use stuff like Temporal Firestorm as a sweeper that allows you to potentially phase your stuff out. You have Sliver Scrutiny as kind of the Sphinx's Revelation style card, draw up a bunch of cards, plays really nicely with the Timeless Lotus. And then you have Witness the Future to kind of shuffle your stuff back into your library to kind of create a loop. You're winning primarily with the Wandering Emperor in the main board. Post board, you have stuff like Reckoner Bankbuster, Hullbreaker Horror as additional threats. And you're basically just trying to control the game. Some copies of Farewell in there. And then really you have like the Temporal Firestorm, Farewell, and Temporary Lockdown, all as removal for the aggressive decks. These are all new decks, so some of these new cards, we're getting the names and stuff. The other deck that we see is an Esper deck. This one went 7/3/1. This is kind of similar in some capacities to what we've seen in the past. This one's more of a tokeny sub-theme. So we have like Fairy Vandal, which takes advantage of your card draw, plays really well with all the Connive style effects. We have Rafine Seer, obviously Siemien Seer, very powerful card, lets you loot through your deck. You have Resolute Reinforcements, another card with tokens, so it lets you go wide, pairing that with like the Wedding Announcement, makes stuff like Make Disappear better. You got some counters and Spell Pierce as well. So this one's a little bit more tempo focused. You also have Obscura Interceptor, so a lot more ways to play at Flash style speed. And then you have your Wandering Emperors, Kaidos as well. In the sideboard, you got Depopulate as a sweeper, Knockout Blow as a way to deal with attacking creatures, particularly red ones. Hermit as kind of tax. You got some Shieldreds in there as well. And then going to the Pizza Box tournament, the winning deck was Mardu Midrange. This list went 7/2 across the tournament. And it's another kind of like Black X pile. You have copies of Archangel of Wrath, which is a new card here. So 4 mana, 3/4, flying lifelink, and then you can kick it, and each time you kick it, it deals 2 damage to any target. Because the damage is dealt by Archangel, I believe you gain the life because it has lifelink. You're also seeing some copies of Sarah Paragon, works nicely with Spirit Companion or the Bloodtide Harvester. Some copies of Henrika as well. Seeing if there's any new cards. It's another like Meat Hook pile, just grindy mid-range in there. Seeing your copies of Temporary Lockdown on the side. Banishing Slash, just as kind of a terrible removal spell, but probably something you have to use. Burn Down the House. Edgar's really good against the black-based decks. They don't have too much exile, so it's a good way to kind of deal with that. Comes back right away, so there's a short window in which they can actually target it with Graveyard Trespasser. We have like Sanctuary Warden just for more grindy games as well. Then we have a copy of Gruul Aggro, which came in second, 7/2 as well. And this is a bit more of a werewolf sub-theme. So we have like the Kessig Naturalist, we have the Tovolar, we have Reckless Stormseeker. I've really not liked Reckless Stormseeker, the fact that it gets hit by cut down. So your 3 mana spell just eating a 1 mana removal feels bad. But you have like Pack Leaders. Yavimaya Iconist has been pretty good. 2 mana, 3/2 trample, but you can kick it, becomes a 4/3 with haste till end of turn. Then you got like Raiju's. Halana's another card. Getting hit by cut down feels pretty bad. You don't want to lose that much tempo, I found just going up the Raiju's was better, or even the 4/4 trampler that can flip in mono green. Then you got like Arsonist, Kumanos, Strangles, stuff like that. Sideboard, just you got another copy of Squee. We see Jaya in the sideboard in addition to the main board. So you got some Planeswalkers in here that just can accrue value in terms of tokens to put pressure and provide you some sort of card advantage. In this version here, it's actually not, like, they got the 2 Outland Liberators main. I wouldn't be against even just seeing more copies of this card. There's a lot of enchantments going around. Like all the decks pretty much playing Fable or Fable or Wedding Announcement, stuff like that. So it seems like a super reasonable main board card that just applies some pressure. We also had a copy of Rakdos Anvil, so Rakdos Sacrifice. This one's 6/2. I've liked so this version is playing 4 Liliana the Veils. I've actually liked the Omnixus in this deck a little bit more. It just does more with the theme, makes you tokens, gets you sacrifices, gets you 2 bodies. But we're seeing Liliana in this deck. You have basically your Blood Enablers and then a Tenacious Underdog. So pretty much stock, you're just really adding Reckoner's Bargain. So just kind of the new way to draw 2 cards. We had Deadly Dispute, we've had Village Rites, so this is kind of the fill-in. In addition to Cut Down that we're seeing, we also get access to Sulphurous Springs as a dual land. And then we just see like copy of Shieldred. You're seeing Karn Silix. I'm gonna call it Karn Skrillex. Just kind of a one-sided destroy, or like a colorless Perleus Vault, but destroys instead of exiles. Perleus Vault is colorless, so that doesn't really make sense. And then lastly, we have mono black midrange. I'll post all these deck lists in the comments so you can pull them in. But this is kind of the go-to. We're seeing this a lot in best of 1. This deck's got close to like a 70% win rate in some iterations. But like you got Liliana Veil, Sorin, Evolved Sleeper filling in nicely here. Shieldred, just against like these Gruul decks and stuff like that. It's just a house. We're seeing like Souls, basically all the good black cards, Invoke Despair, just like lots of value. Meathook Massacre, everything's a 2-for-1 or just grinding value, gaining you life, stuff like that. Sideboard wise, we have like more removal. We have Pilfer, which is kind of like the targeted discard effect. Another Soul Transfer, Bank Busters, and then License Hearst mixed into there as well. License Hearst is a $20 card. Interesting. In any case, gonna wrap this up. I did a pre-weekend best of 1. I'll do another best of 1 so you could see kind of post-weekend how the meta's evolved, if any, and we can go from there. And then next week I will be up with the other formats once we get enough accrued data. There's some gameplay videos as well up on my YouTube if you want to check that out. I got Mythic quickly with Mono Red in Historic best of 1 with the new Rada card included in there. Posted that on my Twitter if you want to take a look. But we played a bunch of standard decks as well, so some gameplay up there if you want to see how some of these work out. In any case, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.